So, hey guys. So, well, a lot of things going on. New ban list, new cards, and the first thing I want to open up and kind of say here is that I missed something. I missed something really important with Middletronus. So, we're going to talk about that first before we get into anything else. So, Middletronus, this card, two things I missed. First off, uh, why can't we target a token? Well, I figured it out. It's pretty simple. It's because it says banish both face down. That's why you can't banish cards face down. You know, like who would win? 10,000 attack Nibiru token or a single Kishtira Fenrir? Well, yeah. We all know the answer is the Nibiru token, right? Because you cannot banish cards, or specifically tokens, face down for whatever reason. But you know, you can regular banish them. But anyways, that's the first thing about Middletronus. And there is actually going to be a second thing. So the second thing is, I didn't realize it at the time, but this card cheats out, well, essentially any monster, right? And at first glance, you know, it's not that good. It summons a negated monster. Well, depending on the meta, this can actually be a disgusting effect. So just for example, let's see if it will auto build me a Tenpai deck. That'll save me some time, right? So let's put this in, auto build, add rest of the cards, whatever. I just need whatever Tenpai list just to make the point, right? So with Middletronus here, let's assume we're playing against, I don't know. Let's say Gimmick Puppet. So Gimmick Puppet will maybe have, I don't know, this guy on the end board. And then we'll have Middletronus in hand, right? So we are going to target specifically CXYZ Gimmick Puppet Fanatics Mission X. Sure, and we're going to banish it, and we're going to summon a guy, right? So the guy will summon in this case. Let's go with, for example, a Rise Heart, and we'll do this to just kind of out that monster and also activate Middletronus, and then we'll accompany this with a Book of Eclipse. So far so good, right? So this does a number of things, but one of the things Book of Eclipse does here is it will set this Kishtira Arise Heart that is negated face down. And then we can activate later in the turn Sengenpai Transcendent Dragion, which has the effect here. You can change all monsters on the field to attack position. So a Book of Moon type effect, so we'll go with Book of Eclipse because that's probably the best one you could be playing in Tenpai, I think. So we're going to be using that on Kishtira Arise Heart. And then later in the battle phase, I guess we'll make Transcendent Dragion. So we'll do this, and then we flip Arise Heart back face up. So you know what happens to Arise Heart, right? It's no longer negated. That's the kind of usage I forgot for Middletronus here in my last video, and yeah, this is something pretty substantial, and it's fairly playable. Now it mostly depends on like what cards are like played in the meta. So Arise Heart was just an example, right? So this is a Dark Machine, and all of the Gimmick Puppets are Dark Machines. So this would be a pretty solid pick against, I guess, Gimmick Puppet. But maybe there's something more generically usable for us to flip face up and kind of, I guess, abuse. So for example, against Borland, we could summon like a Disbatter. Just for example, right? And I'm not 100% sure like what all the targets are for this because I haven't actually checked. But the basic premise here is going to be we activate Middletronus, we out our opponent's guy, we get a guy, and in fact we'll on purpose try to cheat out the most disgusting guy possible, and then we'll try to gain its effect via like Book of Eclipse or something. And this particular line is nice in that, you know, it's just like a one card combo to do like half of this. It's not like super easy for us to find a way to Book of Eclipse. One thing worth mentioning is these guys are not properly summoned, so if you were to try to Zealantis them, they're just gone. So that I would say is not so good for you. But if we Book of Eclipse and then we activate Sync Empire Transcendent Dragon, and there will be like a turn 3 or 4, we don't have to worry about that too much, because our opponent doesn't get any draws because of Sync Empire Transcendent Dragon here. So I guess that's a thing. And yeah, moving along now. We're going to be talking about the new cards here. And in terms of the new cards, I think the most interesting ones are definitely Gimmick Puppet. So yeah, Gimmick Puppet, of course, is now a very reliable FTK. And I gotta admit, it's not going to be very apparent looking at this, but yeah, I think if I recall correctly, one of the first decks I built were, well, it was Gimmick Puppet. So I didn't build it on here. I built it on like on alt. So yeah, I'm actually very decently well versed with what the Gimmick Puppet cards do. So there is a Gimmick Puppet Monster Reborn type effect. It's not this one, is it? No, it is this one. Puppet Ritual. If your opponent's life points are at least 2,000 higher than yours, you can target 2 level 8 Gimmick Puppet monsters in your graveyard, special summon those targets. And then your best card free support was Puppet Parade, which allows you to summon monsters based on how many more your opponent has, and you can just summon from deck based on the difference. And it also allows you to set a rank up magic. And honestly, one of the best cards I believe Gimmick Puppet had was probably just the rank 4. But it's like kind of awkward because, you know, if your opponent's playing like an XYZ deck, it's like, I take 2 guys and then I do nothing with them because I'm Gimmick Puppet locked and I have to give these guys back. So yeah, pretty awkward. But in terms of what they do now, well, we won't go fully into it today, but essentially we have Send for Cost Guy, and then we have several different guys that do things in the graveyard just in general with the different Gimmick Puppet cards. And with the change in like the ban list, Gimmick Puppet for at least a little while might end up being good. And we also have Dragoon now, and Dragoon honestly a bit annoying. So Dragoon, I didn't realize it until like a while ago, but this card, you might as well consider this a 4K attack card and not 3K. So you can't like Baron crash this, crash into this to get rid of it. You would need something with like some kind of attack manipulation or some non-target removal that's not destruction. So this is a little bit more moderately annoying to out than I thought. But honestly, the thing I hate the most about Dragoon, it's a spellcaster. And why would that matter? Well, because Secret Village, simply put. And also, I guess Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, yeah, you're going to be running quite a few Garnets for this, so that's not exactly fun either, in my opinion. But I mean, at this point, I'm thinking Celestial. We can probably get this unbanned now. Yeah, you know. What does Celestial do? We have the pop effect, and then we have the if you have no cards in your hand except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card, and when Destiny her monster from your graveyard, draw 2 cards. This is probably at the point where it's probably going to be okay, like either right now or soon. That was just the thought I kind of had, you know. Being part of a Verte package, kind of like Dragoon is as well. Anyways, focusing back up, Shifter is now at 1. So with Shifter at 1, well, a lot of decks actually are in a better position now But I mean, you can make the argument for if it's better or not that those decks can play. But yeah, so the main thing I uh, like about Shifter to an extent, uh, just off the top of my head, one of the a few good things that Dimension Shifter does is it prevents certain hand traps from getting a lot of mileage. So one such type of hand trap before, we had Bestials. So if we didn't open exactly Magnemite, all of these guys just become a 2.5k beater at best. So that's what we can do with the Bestials, and also Lubellion's not activatable under Shifter. Shifter also has the effect to turn off like Effect Veiler Maxi, which is pretty strong, right? So, of course, if you Shifter turn 1, it's not going to really play around Maxi, but if we were to go turn 1 Shifter, it turns off Maxi and Effect Veiler and Called By, essentially. Except you shouldn't, yeah, well, like, that shouldn't happen because you should Called By the Shifter. But it kind of does turn off Called By either way. So idea of if we open Shifter, our opponent does not have Called By, we activate Shifter. Our opponent, if they have, well, it would be really trashy to have this, but if they have like some non-engine that's not activatable because it's something like, I don't know, let's say Triple Tactics talent, and we Shifter in the draw phase, that's not activatable, that is dead. Max C is not activatable. Well, I mean, technically you can chain to Shifter, but I'm probably not going to be special summoning on your turn 1, right? So you can't Shifter next turn. Effect Veiler is turned off for next turn. And then your engine piece is not usable. So that's one of the reasons why Shifter was so good. And yeah, even if you resolve Magnemite, you do get to add a dragon, I guess, but it's like, what dragon's really that good under Shifter anyways? That there is also that. I guess it's just like specifically at Tenpai dragons probably one of the best type of dragons you could possibly add under Shifter, I guess. That's probably about it. But yeah. This is just brutality, honestly. But now, Bestials are going to be a little bit better because I believe since Shifter was at 2, a lot of people, I think, compared to before, they were playing a lot less Bestials for like one reason or another. But with all of the little different changes in all the cards being released and all that, so we have like the Gimmick Puppet cards being released, and Shifter being at 1 now is actually a really good opportunity to start playing Bestials once again. And even if your deck, I mean, in an ideal world, your deck would have some synergies with Bestials, some way, some shape, some form. I mean, they're okay as like hand traps, but for one reason or another, you might not want to play Bestials. In that case, you're still able to play DD Crow. So we can still play Crow instead of Bestials. But yeah, they're just really efficient against Gimmick Puppet in general. So the new Gimmick Puppet cards, they just are now a somewhat consistent FTK for no real reason. But yeah, we can now activate a number of cards that make it really annoying to deal with, just in general. So if we activate Mansion of the Dreadful Dolls, now Gimmick Puppet monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle and are unaffected by the activated effects of your opponent's monsters, except their XYZ monsters. So yeah, pretty annoying here. So that now all of a sudden activate effects of your opponent's monsters, I'm not 100% sure what this means, so I haven't gone to face like Gimmick Puppet enough, but I'm going to assume this only counts for cards your opponent controls, so it doesn't work on like Ash Blossom Joy Spring or whatever. But what we can do is we can use this right here, Gimmick Puppet Bisque Doll, You can special summon this card from... Oh, wrong effect. You can banish this card from your graveyard. Your opponent cannot target Gimmick Puppet monsters you control with card effects this turn. So this immediately beats like Imperm and Effect Veiler. All of those cards. Not really activatable anymore. Epic. And also the new UR, this guy here. These guys are kind of creepy, honestly. But yeah, this sends for cost. This just sends a guy for a cost. So yeah, can't really stop this. You can stop the level adjustment, which I honestly don't think is that important. But all right. Aside from that, we have, where is it? Gimmick Puppet Terror Baby. This creature also has the effect of your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to the activation of your Gimmick Puppet monsters or effects this turn. So if I were to now activate, like, I don't know, let's say the Gimmick Puppet Foolish Burial, I believe. This just says Gimmick Puppet cards, right? No, monsters. Okay. So if I were to activate, let's see, Gimmick Puppet Pistol's effect to special summon? Is this an inherent summon? Oh, not a good example. Let's go with Gimmick Puppet Kettle Scream. If I were to activate this effect to special summon itself, you can't Bell this because you can't respond with Bell because Bell happens in Chainlink too. But if we were to have like a Bestial or a DD Crow, we can use these cards in open game states to kind of bypass the different protections that Gimmick Puppet has on it. And of course, keeping in mind this is going to be a somewhat consistent FTK, yeah, you're going to want like cards that do things. You know, cards that can hopefully activate. And they're also playing like a Horus Engine because they're good for spitting out some rank 8s and getting certain cards into the graveyard, like, I don't know, Gimmick Puppet Terror Baby, perhaps a Gimmick Puppet Pistol. So getting those cards into the graveyard makes it hard for a lot of the generic hand traps to kind of work, so we have to somewhat target, I guess, well, the Gimmick Puppet cards. And also, I've been noticing since a while ago, a lot of people have been playing 60 card piles, so they're not all like tier piles, but they're generally grass piles. So the three I remember seeing the most are like 60 cards Rescue Ace, 60 cards Tierleman as per usual, and then there is 60 cards Isolde piles. So those cards and decks in general, they usually just get shut down by the shifter, one reason or another. But now we might have to look into like Crow or maybe like Magnemut, something like that, right? Because, well, specifically with the tier piles, Bestials are really good against them, and Tierleman is still fairly popular, so pulling out the Bestials, they're going to be good for a number of reasons. If you want to generically hit more decks, probably Crow. If you want to do a bit of gambling against like what you're going to end up facing, Bestials have more value than Crow against certain decks. Like for example, against Gimmick Puppets, they're of course going to be playing like Called by the Grave still, and you cannot Called by Bestials, but you can Called by DD Crow. So yeah, we have to be a little bit careful about certain things, but just in general, I think Bestials can go pretty hard. In this one duel, I like Gigabricked, and all I had access to were Bestials, and I was able to kind of run out this Gimmick Puppet player's resources to the point where they were no longer able to burn me any longer. So I'll call that a W in any case. And I gotta say, Gimmick Puppet is kind of incredibly based deck design to an extent. So one of the things I want to mention about Gimmick Puppet here is that all of the Gimmick Puppet cards that right now they're basically just leading up to an FTK. And in terms of like pure archetype cards, just like if you made like a one archetype deck and just focus mainly on that archetype, I don't think for the most part there are uh, many decks that just kind of FTK by themselves. And right now in Master Duel, I think this is probably the only one that I can think of, right? That does legit FTK, aside from like kind of Volcanics, but Volcanics is a bit iffy because you do have to play non-archetypal cards, right? So it doesn't quite uh, qualify in my head. But I mean, Volcanics is fairly close. It's closer to a burn deck than an FTK deck, but it can FTK technically. So that's where I'm at for that. But in general, if we like were to kind of put this on a flowchart, we have like combo decks, and combo decks in general lose to control decks, and control decks uh, lose to in general going second decks, and then going second decks uh, can lose to either control or combo. It's kind of up in the air depending on how you built the going second deck, but what going second decks definitely generally lose to, and by going second decks, I mean like Makanko, Numron, decks that like want a Lava Golem you and then like lethal you, they lose to essentially FTK decks, and we've kind of been missing out on that part of the flowchart for a while now. And now with Gimmick Puppet, that kind of fills the niche. Now, imagine being a Tenpai player and then willingly having to give the guy that's their entire deck is just a consistent FTK. Uh, Despite winning the coin flip, we decide, yeah, go first, go ahead and FTK me. That's kind of how we're feeling about this now. So cards like uh, powerful cards like Raigeki, Super Poly, Lightning Storm, all of those cards are pretty useless, and Lava Golem as well. They're pretty useless against just an FTK deck because uh, it's never going to reach turn 2. So yeah, all of those cards, yeah, in general, just kind of useless. And that's kind of where we're at here. And stun is also somewhere on that flowchart, but I don't really feel like kind of placing that anywhere right now. But yeah, I think it's pretty base that we just have an FTK deck now. And what was the effect of this again? Special summon this by attributing one face of XYZ monster. Yada yada. When you do, you can special summon one Gimmick Puppet Nightmare from your hand or graveyard. Honestly, is this card even good in Gimmick Puppet? I mean, if there was like a combo line for this, I guess you could argue that Gimmick Puppet's not full power. But anyways, Gimmick Puppet, consistent FTK. I'm not 100% sure how good it is yet because I haven't faced it that much. And I was playing a deck that was playing Bestials. If I didn't play Bestials, I think I would just be dead. I would have just gone FTK'd. But yeah, so we're looking at Bestials. Bestials are good. Crow is good. Shifter is a one of, which is just like so iffy, sacky. It's just not very good anymore. But yeah, in terms of like Crow, I guess we could play this in like cash, but it's also not very good because we have to discard this card to the graveyard to activate. But we can't even like it shouldn't matter for us to activate Crow because we're under Shifter, so nothing should be in the graveyard anyways. So a lot to think about here, a lot to sit on. But the other primary topic I kind of want to get into here is that yeah, Secret Village. I was wondering, like, Secret Village, is this card a problem? Because I've been feeling like this is a problem for like a while now because now like every deck in their mother is just spamming Secret Village and it's just annoying. So one such example, so this is going to be a not as usual one. Okay, we're playing, let's say, tier limits. We're going to just mill a bunch of guys, and oh, would you look at that? We have milled Rainbow Bridge of Salvation. What does Rainbow Bridge of Salvation do, you might ask? Well, here's the answer. It searches any field spell. Oh, look, a field spell. Secret Village. But surely tier limit doesn't play any spellcasters, right? Like, what possible spell? Oh, yeah. But they have to like kind of just have access to Kingsark to do this, right? So it shouldn't be that consistent. They shouldn't be able to consistently access a spellcaster, right? Oh, hmm, interesting. A spellcaster, and you randomly search Secret Village. Okay, it's just like just tier randomly, right? There's nothing really that bad that could possibly play this, right? Activate Ostinato. We're going to summon a few guys. Oh, hey, would you look at that? All of a sudden, we now have made, after a little bit of comboing, we have made Electromite. We're going to grab Astrograph, and while we're at it, we're going to also make Beyond the Pendulum. And yeah, I think we're going to actually grab a guy with Beyond the Pendulum. I'm feeling like grabbing, I don't know, probably this guy right here. And we're going to pop him with Electromite later. We're going to make Promethean Princess, the completely generic monster. And then we'll, Electromite pop like Ignis Phoenix, or we'll pop it some other way. It doesn't really matter. Either way, we pop this card. What does this summon? Oh yeah, it summons Majesty Pegasus, and it was special summoned by one of the ways it lists essentially. And we'll discard one card, and we'll also add, I don't know, a field spell. How about Secret Village of the Spellcasters? This is one card combo, by the way. The cost to discard included. After we resolve like an ostinato, it just fully allows you to make like Omni Negate plus I believe like Apollosa. You manage like a spellcaster for sure, and also of course Secret Village. Ah, yes, Secret Village. But where have I seen this card before? Right now I think the hardest abuser, Pendex, but yeah. I was thinking about talking about like if Secret Village of the Spellcasters should be like banned, and then I just instantly saw that they released this card. Like I've never read this card before, but Diabels, the original Sin Keeper. If a spell trap becomes set on the field, wait, wrong effect. You can only special summon Diabels, the original Sin Keeper, once per turn this way. Your opponent must set spell trap cards before activating them. So yeah, this is basically just Secret Village, but like a different flavor of Secret Village. But functionally, as far as I'm concerned, that this is like the same thing, pretty much, right? And now we just have this in the game. So, like, at some point it's just like, well, why bother? Why bother banning this when we already have another flavor of essentially Secret Village? And you know what? Anti-spell frag technically also legal. Just while we're at it, cool. Your opponent cannot activate spell cards, and now your opponent has to activate spell or trap cards by setting them first. So now this also just is like anti-spell, but also randomly beats evenly matched. Just no words about this card. Well, why was this card printed? Who made this? What is this? If a simple spells card is in either player's graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. Great. And I just have like no words for this. So yeah, now we also have that in our game, I suppose. And I'm not 100% sure how you get access to this exactly, but I mean, Chimera can get access to this, so they have now an additional floodgate, I suppose. But in general, this is an illusion card, apparently, and we have Nightmare Magician. And technically any deck can play, well, wait, not Nightmare Magician, that's the wrong one. We have Nightmare Apprentice. So this just adds any illusion monster from your deck to your hand. Oh, hey, would you look at Diabels over there? That was in fact an illusion monster. So yeah, that's a thing you now have to deal with. And there's no like summoning restriction on it, so we could summon it like with, I don't know, like something like a Dugaris if we wanted. And that's just something we can do. And I'm sure uh if we have like Nightmare Princess, we could maybe also send what's his face? Tao, I think, right? Yeah. Tao the Chanter, target one illusion monster in your graveyard. So we could do Tao effect to summon the Diabels. So yeah, that's pretty annoying, I suppose. That's also in the game now. But yeah, we'll have to see kind of like how this develops, I guess, and how all this stuff ends up panning out. But for the time being, uh, yeah, I don't think Dragoon is that much of an issue, and the Orcus cards not really much of an issue either. They're just not like super popping off right now. The only like guy I saw trying to play Orcus was like playing some goofy list. Not 100% sure what it was, but they were playing like some kind of like Snake Eye package, and they were playing something else that I don't remember. But yeah, the deck list wasn't good. It like crumbled like extremely fast. And I don't remember what I set up exactly, but I think it was mostly just Bestials. But I didn't even activate the Bestials on their Orcus cards because they didn't they didn't send really good Orcus cards. So in short, it was pretty awkward and kind of just in general bad. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.